not good for morale on the side of the war that I think all good people are on. So uh, there's the one kind of famous example from the past week or so, James. Have you seen the images of terrorists surrendering in their underwear?
Yes,
So
those are the
so
West. Yes.
Yeah, so there have been a few of those, and they have been criticized. Israel has said, you're humiliating them for no reason, and so on. And of course, the reason they're told to surrender in their underwear isn't because we want to see, their beautiful physiques. It's because they might be wearing a bomb, and um, I guess Israel counts on them not wearing a bomb in their underwear, but the rest, at least, we can see whether or not there is a bomb. Uh, so.
Unbelievable. Yeah, they're doing it just to humiliate people. Right, right. No, this is insane. How many stories about ISIS, about Hezbollah with their terrorists putting women and children, bombs attached to the bodies of women and children, sending them in as suicide bombers. No, it's perfectly reasonable under the circumstances, and obviously not done just simply to humiliate human beings. No.
Yeah, and of course, suicide bombings have been the Hamas way since I believe 94 was when the first wave started, January 94, just months after the Oslo Accords were signed. The Palestinians told the world what they think of the idea of peace with Israel by, acting on their newfound, territorial autonomy, let's say, and yeah, it's wrong not to think about and worry about the possibility of a terrorist wearing a bomb. Now, again, you already know these people are terrorists. This is not just any random Palestinian, although even that I don't think would be necessarily wrong. And even if it was done to humiliate them, I don't necessarily think it's wrong in the context of, yeah, morale is important in
Morale is
in
important.
wartime, and this is
And
not good for Palestinian morale.
And that's well, that's exactly it. It's as if the West is supposed to be concerned about Palestinian morale. No, because if it does, it's a strange thing if you think about it too, because it's all a question of embarrassment or humiliating people when you're pointing out that there's an actual security reason that everybody's evading. And so, talk about an issue where morale is focused. If your concern is about the alleged embarrassment of adult male terrorists being shown in their underwear versus what happened on October 7th, then let me suggest your values are all screwed up. You don't have a hierarchy of values. You're not thinking straight. No, 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 no. It's crazy. And worse still, I know my president, Mr. Biden, is not terribly clear about things, but he says something has to change. Does he mean Netanyahu's government? Does he mean the strategy? And then you hear the national security advisor, my president's national security advisor, saying, no, 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 we have to stop with the air raids and the violence there. We have to shift to a diplomatic. American policymakers are telling Israel what to do now. Talk about caving on a morale issue at the very wrong time. It's as if they're buying into the Hamas propaganda and PR. Uh, Again, you have a morale issue. It's the willingness of the West, it's the willingness of America to back up Israel that is lacking here. If there was moral clarity on our part, America and Israel could deal with this. But you see, it's that psychological part that's undermining the war effort, at least America's support. I can feel it right now. America's support for the war effort is officially crumbling in the face of purely psychological considerations. Uh, Talk about losing the morale war.
Yeah, and of course, the reason Israel isn't fighting with all its military might isn't America. That's a great excuse for Israel. But if Netanyahu wanted to do what's right, nobody would have stopped him on October 7th. America would have maybe issued some statement if things didn't look good, but very little could have been said about any action that Israel took on October 7th at night or on October 8th. And Netanyahu knows that this is not the first time that he's run one of these operations. He calls it a war, but it's very much his choice not to fight it fully. And Yeah. So where Israel has gotten is I think at this point Israel's fault, and of course, 120 Israeli soldiers have died in the ground operation in Gaza. Um, and yeah, but just to go back to the point of terrorists, surrendering in their underwear, it tells you something about how strongly they believe that the greatest thing they can do is die for jihad, for Allah. This is a moment where you would think they would fight to the death, but apparently when death is that imminent, then they maybe realize that life on earth is actually all that they have.
There
But
is.
yeah, so I don't see anybody pointing that out, but again, I think people look at these images and just focus on why it's wrong of Israel to be
Well,
mean to the savages.
if I could eliminate the threat from Hamas and Hezbollah to Israel, I know no one would want to see it, but I would parade about in my underwear if that were the cost. So people have talk about dropping all context. Talk about it. I mean, there are far, far worse things that happen in war than pictures of guys in their underwear, okay? That's just insane. And if you're going to let that inhibit you, if that is truly an inhibition against doing what was required here, then you talk about losing the morale war before you've even started. You may as well just raise the white flag right now, because the good guys will be inhibited from even showing pictures of adult men in their underwear in a wartime when we're talking about people getting killed, rockets. I mean, I understand that today Jerusalem was attacked by rockets once again. Two of them landed in open areas. Two of them were intercepted by Iron Dome. But the rockets from Hamas to continue today. Now, in the face of rockets coming from Hamas, tell me, ladies and gentlemen, are pictures of adult men in underwear even a war issue? I mean, it's astonishing.
If you follow the news from Israel from most Western media, you wouldn't know about any rockets because they're focusing on the men in their underwear. But the issue of morale here,
Right.
James, there's morale. The issue of morale is on both sides, right? So you wanna have people on your side inspired to fight, to support the effort, and you want to break the will of your enemy. And
Yeah.
Hamas, for the enemy and for anybody who was considering being a part of the enemy, October 7th was a great victory. It was just the greatest thing that ever happened in these people's miserable lives. And um, so the morale issue there is necessary for this to never happen again. Not only does Israel need to eliminate Hamas and remove any remnant of Palestinian control of Gaza and Judea and Samaria and the West Bank, and of course deal with Hezbollah, which it hasn't been doing, deal with Yemen, which it hasn't been doing, and now companies no longer want to have their ships go through there, and rightfully so, because nobody's protecting them. The Houthis in Yemen should have been gone by now as well.
Again, this is something where American support could really come, but of course, Americans are cowards. What is the national security advisor? I keep going back to the pusillanimous, cowardly assertions that are coming out of American policymakers these days. Well, we don't want to intensify their hatreds. We don't want to intensify their anger. What after October 7th, ladies and gentlemen, could their intensity and anger be any more extremely demonstrated? No, it cannot. So going further, more aggressively after these monsters is not going to aggravate them to some higher level of anger. The thinking behind American policy is just insane, as if continued military operations in Gaza will somehow increase the anger and prejudice of Hamas and the Islamic radicals. That is insane, ladies and gentlemen. Talk about, again, it's a question of will. It's a question of the morale. And if America had get their head out of the sand and realize this is a coordinated Iranian assault, and America could back Israel up in terms of attacks on Iran itself, attacks on the Houthis themselves. They're attacking international shipping. This is a coordinated attack across nations. America has every right to attack Iran, attack the Houthis in Yemen right now. And that's the kind of support that America should be giving to Israel, frankly, rather than telling Israel how to fight this war. I'm disgusted at my policymakers.
Yeah, and if you look at Israel and the Palestinians, if you look at the overall situation in the Middle East versus the West, this is not a close call militarily. It's not a fair fight as you would call it. You know, if both sides actually fought with the full might of their military, this would have been over. Yeah, sometime late October 7th. Um,
Yes.
but
Well,
the
they
issue,
certainly could have done it in the first few days, and
yeah.
they did not. And we were correct at the time to say it's outrageous that within the first 3 or 4 days there wasn't already tremendous military activity going on.
Yeah, but the issue there is also morale, and also which side believes it is actually fighting for something that is right. And the West doesn't seem to actually think that what it is fighting for is right. The Palestinians are pretty much unanimous that killing Jews is the greatest thing you can do, yeah,
Boy,
wiping
another
Israel
survey
off the
came
map is
out.
the only goal these people have.
Yes, another survey came out. Appears, I know that's hard to get numbers in Gaza, but it appears that 3/4 of the people in Palestine thought October 7th was just a wonderful thing and a totally justified thing to happen. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah,
4 people in Gaza are active supporters of October 7th. Think about that, ladies
yeah.
and gentlemen.
A big problem I have with these polls is uh, they don't ask a follow up of the people who said, no, I don't think this was the right thing. Why do you not think it was the right thing? Do you think it's wrong to do something like that ever? Or do you think this was not the right time? Like, are you against,
Too little.
slaughtering
Oh,
Jews?
yeah, I think October 7th should have been 10 times bigger. It would be some of their opinion. They may be too little in that opinion. But think of it, just on the face of it. If you're saying yes or no to October 7th, you've got 3 out of 4 people in Gaza saying, yeah, October 7th, hooray. They were exhilarated like some US college professors were, I guess. Yeah. And the other quarter, you're absolutely right. What are these people? I mean, a quarter of any population is going to be, in the hospital, children or something with no opinion. Yeah. I mean, it's insane. It's clear the Gaza population very much supports Hamas or things more radical even than Hamas. And even those who support once upon a time, the PLO agreed to a framework for peace. They never acknowledged Israel's right to exist. They never have. And so even those who say, I'm in favor of the Palestinian Authority or the Fatah wing, those folks, even those folks, it really is a question of the moral clarity, the vision, and the backbone to do something about it. And on both of those scores, I'm afraid it looks like we've already lost.
Yeah. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. There was about a month ago, there was that speech by Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, which was hyped, and I think people were disappointed. People were expecting him to say that Hezbollah is going all in, and he basically said this is Hamas's war. After
Yeah.
his speech, almost certain it was Elon Levy, the Israel spokesman who has gone viral a few times, and you may have we've spoken about him on this channel, who said, I don't remember the exact quote. It was something to the effect of the speech was so boring. Maybe we understand maybe Nasrallah's speechwriters were killed in Israeli airstrikes. And he was reprimanded for this. I mean, I thought this was great. This is,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a part of warfare, which, by the way, the other side does perfectly. They do the psychological warfare. They release videos of hostages that they've drugged and made them read a statement. And in one case, they released a video of a hostage and then killed her. So they know what they're doing. Again, they have moral clarity for
So
their
the
vile
propaganda minister
morality.
for the Third Reich was off limits. So Tokyo Rose was off limits in World War II. That's insane. The propaganda arms of these aggressors are part of their war machine. The speechwriters, I'm going to go right to the zero in on it. The speechwriters are evil Propagators, they make the violence possible. They are the ideas, the words, the propaganda. They are part of the war machine.
Yeah, but
Even the
it was less
speechwriters.
like I don't know there was any knowledge of any speechwriters dying. I think this was mostly a joke, and
Oh,
I mean it was mostly a
even
joke,
if it
but
was even if it was sheer speculation on his part, it was delightful speculation. I would anyone I would not shed a single tear if a speechwriter got it, and I don't even know if a speechwriter. But the point is, in theory, those people are also part of a war machine. They're worth a joke. Yeah, I'd joke about their death. They deserve to die. They're part of
yeah.
this war.
Yeah, and one of the criticisms about him was, after October 7th, after something like that happened, we need to have more humility. And like my reaction would be the exact opposite. After
Exact
something
opposite.
like October 7th happened, we should drop what we should have dropped earlier, which was the humility and not just in words, but in deed as well. And unfortunately, yeah, Israel is still humble and is and Israelis are dying daily now for it.
Exactly right. How many innocent people need to die? It's insane. It's insane. It's almost like they want Hamas to continue. They want to protect these terrorist organizations so they can survive to engage in more attacks. What they want, apparently, is more October 7th. That's all I can figure. And that's called the humanitarian policy. That's the policy of compassion. Don't you know? A policy that will ensure these people survive, Hamas survives, and that we get more October 7th. That's considered humanitarian. That's considered love of humanity. That's considered a plea for peace. It is upside down, backwards, inside out. It is a hatred of life on earth. Honestly, it really is. If you can't defend yourself with moral clarity, if you're pulling your punches like that, then what you're saying is that your own life, is not of value, that you have to self-immolate in the face of evil. It's true, people sort of take it for granted, but there it is in Christian ethics where Jesus says, submit to the evildoer. And that Jesus said, submit to the evildoer. And in effect, Western policymakers absorbing this sort of self-immolation, the altruism that has been part of Western thought for thousands of years now. I guess we just have to turn the other cheek again and again and again, as many times. What the Hamas leader said it, there'll be October 7th again and again until Israel is gone. Really. And that's the pro-peace side, the side that protects these people. Unbelievable.
Yeah, there's a couple of super chats. There's also another example or two I wanted to bring up. I do want to let people know that after the reality show, which is coming up in 10 minutes, we have for the first time since the war started, a show that is not about the war. We have Finance Friday with Jim Brown. He is hosting Maria Marty and Eduardo Marty to discuss Javier Milei and what he can do, or what. Yeah, how much? Well, they'll tell you what they discuss, but it's there are questions about how much of what he says he wants to do he can actually do, and yeah, I'm sure they will be discussing that. And of course, if you have any questions, you're welcome to send your super
Well, it's
chat.
true that free market advocates around the world are wondering what the new government in Argentina can actually accomplish, or if it'll be counterproductive. And the jury is definitely out on that, and a lot will depend upon the leadership there. So, but definitely
Yeah,
too.
unlike Hamas in Gaza, he does have opposition within his country, so you know it's
Yeah,
not as easy to get away with
not
everything.
nearly so easy. Yeah.
So thank you, Jeff Bannister for the super chat. Thank you, Jason Adams, for the super chat. Jason says there is a certain humor when someone invokes the name of God and gets struck by lightning or has a heart attack. Did you see that
Oh,
Turkish
that
MP?
was so. Oh my gosh!
I
Yeah.
did tweet about it, Jason, by the way, at Razi Ginsburg, in case you're not following.
Well, see, Allah is speaking, right? I mean, if you want to know the will of God here, it's almost like those joke where the big finger of God comes down. See, I am an atheist. I'm absolutely certain that there is no supernatural agency working here. On the other hand, was that sheer poetry?
Yeah, Bonnie
And
said,
I'm laughing because it is just. ladies and gentlemen. It is just those people who aid and abet anything like October 7th. When they die, you're not going to see a tear here. I'm going to joke about it, even if even if it's a hypothetical joke about the spokesman for the monsters dying. I don't talk about just losing the morale war. No, in fact, we should be playing up, if anything, the deaths of these people who advocate such monstrous violence. Yeah.
Yeah, Bonnie says in the chat, I guess Allah missed. Bonnie, I'm not sure you should be making, carrying Allah's name in vain in Michigan, but I do appreciate it. Yeah, I thought that was
Well, and as you point out, Israel and America clearly have the military force here to wipe out the enemy, or at least to decisively push them back. And they're not even, the fact that they're not even trying tells you everything. It's the willingness on the part of the defenders to use the force that they have, even if it is stronger. And it is the determination, even on the part of the weaker. If you're smaller, weaker, and have less advanced rockets and bombs, that doesn't make you the good guys just because you're weaker. Nor does it make it certain that they're going to lose. A minority, a poorly equipped and trained minority can win a war if they have the will, and if the other guys don't have the will to fight back. It's morale. I'll say it again. I said it yesterday. I'll say it once more. Compared to, say, military technology, morale and the will to fight is by far the most important factor. Because if you're not willing to use your technology, what good is it? And if you're willing to stand up constantly and throw your own young people's lives away, you could actually win at the end of the day, because you have the moral clarity. As perverse as it is, you've got the willingness to fight and die.
Yeah, so there was another incident yesterday or the day before in Jenin in the West Bank, because stuff is happening in the West Bank and Israel is doing its usual thing of just reacting pinpoint to, doing these little operations. One of them, some soldiers that took over a mosque used the, if you ever been near a mosque when there is a call for prayer, it's a very unpleasant thing that they do. So they use that speaker system to say some Jewish prayer, and they graffitied, "We're here to eat hummus" in someplace there, and they were suspended. So, and there were similar incidents of soldiers spraying, football team names and slogans in Gaza, being suspended. There has been some criticism of Israeli flags being used in Gaza, which I think is, that is such a basic thing in war. You have been forced into war. You've taken over a territory. Yeah, you plant your flag. That's basic.
Flag.
Yeah.
Look, they take a Hamas installation, put your flag right there, take pictures, and if the world isn't reacting positively to an Israeli flag going over a former Hamas site, then again, I wonder about the clarity of the world on this. As we've said before, the United Nations is evil. Most of the nations of this world are sanctioning evil right now. But the point is that when you've got a moral issue this clear, what you do is you send up the cheers and the rockets and the hoorays when an Israeli flag goes over a place in Gaza or over a former Hamas installation. That's cause for cheering, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and the world reaction, I've already lost all hope. But the fact that in Israel there's no, again, they're lacking that clarity to say this is a good thing. I think this is a big part of the reason of why Israel is losing and will continue to lose, unfortunately. Yeah. A few days ago, there was one of the deadliest days in the war for Israel. There were 10 Israeli soldiers died, 9 of them in one operation in Gaza. And one thing there was that this was high-ranking officials, kind of higher-ranking officers in the military who went in first. And this is also a part of the lead by example approach. Now that is, I can see both arguments for it. I mean, for me, yeah, if you're not willing to do what you're calling on others to do, then it's not really inspiring them to do it. On the other hand, you need commanders. Like it's right. That hierarchy is there for a reason. It is important.
I want my most experienced guy the most trained and experienced guy to be protected back there, and the rest of us will take his orders precisely because he is the most trained, experienced, and informed. We got to protect the generals. On the other hand, famous generals in history, Omar Bradley in World War II, or in the ancient Roman world, generals who would sleep out in the open with their soldiers and not eat when their soldiers couldn't eat. They got solidarity with their people. It's an amazing thing because the whole thing of heroism really depends upon your moral values. What you see as heroic, what you see as people willing to pay a high price for a high value, should be treated as the heroism that it is. But again, that requires the moral clarity that we absolutely are lacking on this issue.
And again, I don't know in such a situation what the right answer is. I mean, there is a point at which, like, you can say, oh, well, the prime minister isn't going to fight, and but there is a reason for that, and I think that's I did have another point on this matter, but I don't remember what it was. So
we were talking yesterday about George Washington and Valley Forge, too. And if you think about it, the willingness of those guys to go through winter without shoes, on the frozen ground, not getting adequately fed, with the diseases that were rampant, and still willing to endure that winter at Valley Forge so they could attack the British. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the kind of willingness that will cause you to beat a superior military force. And I'm not trying to say that Hamas is like George Washington at Valley Forge. I'm just trying to point out the strength of moral clarity and how moral clarity can, at the end of the day, defeat a superior, militarily superior opponent. That's what wins wars, ladies and gentlemen. Moral clarity.
And speaking of moral clarity, on the reality show, we're going to discuss a couple of very different, but similar in some ways interviews, or similar in the way that they help clarify what we're dealing with here. One by the Israeli ambassador to the UK, another by a lecturer at a university in London. So join us for the reality show in about a minute. Thank you, James. Thanks, everybody. There is no daily objective tomorrow. It is the Ayn Rand Center UK Christmas party. So we are taking the day off to party, and hopefully we'll be able to do something on Sunday. We'll see. Thanks, everybody, and see you in a minute.
Be safe.